I know why you don't like to pay child support. It's because when you pay that money over to the other parent, you lose control. You lose a say on where that money's going to be spent. It's not that you don't want to support your kids. Of course you do. You want to buy them food. You want to make sure they're sheltered. You want to make sure they're clothed properly. But when you pay money, hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars a month in child support, you lose a say in how that money's spent. And the other parent could spend it on cigarettes, on alcohol, on all sorts of things, and there's really not much you can do about that. Except in very rare cases where maybe money's being spent on drugs, illegal drugs, the court is not going to get involved. The court's not going to require an accounting of the other parent on where that money's spent. So you lose control over where the money's spent, and that's why it's so difficult to accept paying child support to the other parent. If a judge puts you on child support, only a judge can take you off of child support. I'm going to say that again. It's that important. If a judge has put you on child support, only a judge can take you off of child support. Here's what I mean by that. Take a typical situation where you'll have a child born out of wedlock. The mom and dad are together when the child is born. They separate. Mom puts dad on child support, goes to court. The judge sets the child support, bangs the gavel, says, Dad, you got to pay this amount every month through the state. All right, move forward a couple of months. The parties get back together. Mom goes down to the child support office and says, hey, I want to take dad off child support. Well, the child support office stops enforcing child support, but they can't take dad off of child support. Only a judge can do that. What should have happened is dad should have petitioned the court and said, hey, we're back together. Take me off of child support. There'd be a hearing set before a judge. The judge would have then taken dad off child support. Why doesn't the court require the parent receiving child support to give an accounting of where that money's being spent? It's a very good question, and I don't know that I have a good answer for it. You know, most parents will tell you that they don't like paying child support to the other parent because they have no control over what happens with that money. And many people believe that the other parent is wasting that money, spending it on things other than the children, and many times that's the case. You know, in guardianship cases, if you're appointed a guardian over a child and over the estate of that child, you have to give an accounting every year as to where that money goes, a detailed accounting. Why don't we require that of parents who receive child support? You know, in divorce cases, at least in Tennessee, when we file a divorce case, there's an injunction that goes in place that requires the other parent, or really both parents, to give an accounting of where all the money that they spend goes, and to provide that accounting when requested by the other party. I think the court should require that in the case of child support as well. Tennessee has just passed a law known as Bentley's Law. Under that law, if a defendant is convicted of vehicular homicide due to intoxication or aggravated vehicular homicide, and the victim, the person that was killed, was the parent of a minor child or children, then the court that sentences the defendant for the crime of vehicular homicide has to order that defendant to pay restitution to the children in the form of maintenance or child support until that child or children reach the age of 18 or graduate from high school. The bill goes on to require that the court determine an amount that would be reasonable and necessary for the maintenance and support of that victim's child, and give some factors the courts are going to have to consider. One of those factors is the financial needs and resources of the child. Another one is the financial resources and needs of the surviving parent, the guardian, or in some cases, the State Department of Children's Services if the children are in the department's custody. The big one, though, is the standard of living to which the child is accustomed. And that's what we're going to talk about here, because this law seems to require the court to consider the wealth of the parent that was killed and determine an amount that would be reasonable to compensate the children for that loss of wealth. So what you're going to end up having is situations where a wealthy person was killed by a drunk driver, and those children get more money than perhaps the children of a person who was poor and did not have a lot of means. And you're going to have a disproportionate amount or disproportionate amounts for those two situations. It's going to be interesting to see what the courts do with that. The bill goes on to say that if a defendant is incarcerated because of the crime, then they have to start paying within a year after they're released from prison. So those are some of the factors that go into this bill or into this legislation. Tell me what you think about this. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Do you think that's a good law? Do you think it's fair? Do you think there are going to be problems in the future? Let me know. Write in your comments below what you think of this bill. Dad was paying child support of about $750 a month for 2 children based on his income of $50,000 a year. Well, about 2 years into his child support obligation, he ended up inheriting a large sum of money, about $1 million, when his grandparents passed away. Mom got wind of that and hired a lawyer and took Dad back to court and asked for an increase in child support, claiming that that inheritance that he received should be included in income to increase Dad's income, thereby increasing his child support obligation. Well, the court agreed. And what the court did is it took the amount of money that he inherited, divided that by the number of years that the children would be minors and he would have a child support obligation, and then increased Dad's income by that amount. Dad ended up having to pay child support now based on $150,000 a year of income when you included that inheritance in there. What do you think about that? Do you think that's fair?